Well, I wanted to finish the dialogue on Terminator 3. So let's go off where we left off. So I gave an explanation on, so this is the part where they go up to the desert like cemetery where Sarah was fake buried. And then they go into the thing, and then John, there's actually guns in there, but then John gets put in a coffin, and then they put him in the back of the hearse, and then he gets out of the coffin. He's like, you know, symbolizes being born again or something. And so the same doctor from part 1, 2, and 3 is now going over to Catherine and going, it's all going to be okay. I think he kind of resembles the Jordan Peterson, because, you know, he's also a huge role and piece on the chessboard these last days as far as philosophy goes and stuff like that. You know, he's in the high table council of many different genres, India, you know, Palestine, all of them. So, you know, and so that's what I believe on that. And John and Catherine are supposed to have some type of kids, which will be keys for the future. And there's always diesel trucks that play huge roles in these movies. So, like, for instance, whenever Terminator and the TX were fighting, you know, you had the Canada movement with the truckers when COVID was going on, right? And one of the trucks said Xenadrine. And so, you know, I pause it, and obviously I Google what these names mean, because I've never seen a truck driving around that says Xenadrine on it. You know, in movies, one thing you'll notice is the things that are in the movies on the trucks, you hardly see out there, but you do see them. You see the R's, the M's, the, you know, the single letter. And that's it. A lot of that. So Xenadrine means thermogenic, right? So Xenadrine is a thermogenic capsule. That's a metabolic energy intake pill. Right? And, you know, it reminds me of the Thermo King sign that has the T and then the U that's like pulling the T inside the U and then the K behind all of it. It's like a triple threat universal word. You know, so when you see thermogenics, that's what that means. And so, you know, T-U-K, right? So Catherine's dad, he's a general of AI pretty much. So at this point, you know, the world wants to put AI in charge of their, like, sweeping for, what do they call it? Like scams and viruses and stuff. And, you know, so he was a key too. He was the same equivalency of Miles Dyson in part 2. But Miles Dyson got killed. He dropped the trigger, they blew up the building, and then it was postponed, right? And then this guy was like the secondary Miles Dyson. Just like you have Hitler, right? Hitler was an attempt to be an antichrist. You have Stalin, who was an attempt to be an antichrist. You have Napoleon. You have all these people where they travel in these shoes, right? And then when it doesn't happen, there's this, like, not a restart, but it's just, it wasn't for that time, and then it's like a pause. I think there's a pause because Nineveh in the Bible, there was a pause. God said in 40 days, he didn't say if you repent, he said in 40 days you will be destroyed, right? And so Jonah preached a message, and they repented within those 40 days, and then God relented, and then Jonah was looking up going, what the heck, you know? And so it was a pause. Nineveh later got destroyed. The next generation, they got destroyed because they forgot and stuff like that. But it was a pause. He just said, all right, he relented and straight paused through that whole generation. See? So, you know, and it's funny because the missiles fly in this Nevada desert, because John and Catherine hide in Crystal Peak Desert, and that's off the Nevada mountain range, you know. And that's just funny because when I was in Las Vegas, I saw visions of missiles flying above those desert lands, right? And which was crazy. The same thing happens in this movie. So let's see. John's all, he tried to get a gun and put it to his head because he's all, I ain't hiding in no freaking hole. And Terminator's all, it is your destiny. You know, and because I've said that. I don't know why. I would just be ranting in the day, and it's like I can feel the elites on me, and I would always utter things like, I am not gonna go hide in some freaking hole. Everyone else out here is panicking, dying, and it's just not my style, you know. And then it's funny, John says the same thing. So, and then whenever they find out they're gonna get together, you know, he's all, "This is your wife and this is your husband," you know, and they're like, "What?" And then John Connor's spouse, the first thing she says, "You're dirty, you know, like you need a bath. You're a mess. You need to clean up." And then John says, "Well, you're not my type either," like saying, "I wouldn't have picked you if I can pick anybody," right? So you have that going on. So, and what's funny about the TX is I noticed in the military zone, she was able to get inside, right? So this woman was able to get inside the military zones. She was able to get close to like generals, databases, right? She's like she had a key or something. So, and the TX has this blue light gizmo. She can turn her finger into this like magic wand. It'll really shrink down, and then it's all blue light. And this is what she injects in the machines, in people's heads, and she can reprogram them to do her bidding, right? So she has this gizmo which uses to turn on machines and control them. Just like the woman in Godzilla King of Monsters. If you ever watched that movie, she has a little box that has this like thing that turns like pretty blue, right? And she tries to, when she does it, there's this butterfly that's Godzilla's bride or wife or something. Because the butterfly like mates with Godzilla. I don't know. It's like a monarch. It's like some monarch butterfly. And she uses this blue gizmo on this butterfly, and it turns it from its monster state into a controllable state, right? So it's the same thing, but the whole different recipe and wardrobe of a movie, right? But it's the same exact dialogue. That's what I'm trying to say. So they use that and to control them, and Miles Dyson was put on hold. We just talked about that. So what you see is like Miles Dyson, the Obama guy, he was going to be possibly the 3 million killer. And then now it turned to the dad, right? Mr. Brewster or whatever. So you have that right there. So TX, she must represent the queen in the book of Revelation. I think that the whole world is like, you know, I think that's who that is. And then John and Catherine represent like the underground king and queen, you know. So, and you see this a lot in like movies like The Matrix. Like you have Trinity and Neo, who like outside of when they're plugged in, they're living in the shadows, in these tunnels. And Neo's like the king of the world. You know, Neo's probably like, you know, it's weird how that happened. And then you have the other guys, the agents, and then you have that other couple on Matrix, I think Revolutions, where it's that girl who's with that French guy, and he's just obsessed with other women. Like he gets in women's heads, and like she's eating that bite of that like cheesecake, and then it like he has her have like an orgasmic thing, and then they go in the bathroom, and they, you know, he gets head from her or something, and then the wife knows about it, and she's like, she craves what Neo has with Trinity, you know, because that's why she wanted to kiss him in front of him, or in front of her, because they knew it would crush each other, you know. So, you know, there's things like that. So the Terminator breaks open the safe in the general's office, Crystal Peak, Nevada mountains. He breaks open the safe and he's like just pulls the door off. You know, you see this too where John Wick in chapter 1, he grabs the priest, the Catholic priest, and says, "Take me to the vault," you know, right? And then they go in the vault, and John Wick is like, "What are you gonna do with all that money?" He's all, "This," and he threw a frack grenade on it, or a fire grenade, and straight burnt that shit, right? So, you know, and you have Bunker Hill in Vegas, and then the TX even tries to reprogram Arnold for a minute and to kill John Connor, but it doesn't work. And so modern translation though equals to seduction, spells, enchantments, because everything is done in voices, right? It's all a whisper. Like, you know, I was watching this other movie, and it's all about which whisper you listen to, right? That becomes your ultimate choice. So, and I noticed Skynet building, they turn on the magnetic button, which is representation of also the hydrogen collider at CERN. They're going through this tunnel, and it looks exactly like the hydrogen collider, just smaller, right? The hydrogen collider is a little bit bigger. I think it's probably like 24-inch pipe or something, but this one is smaller. It's probably like an 18-inch pipe, and it's a magnet, and then it sucks this TX up to it, right? But then she cuts a hole through it and ends up getting away. So Oh yeah, there was writing on the tunnel walls too. When John and Catherine and the TX are running, well, they're running from the TX. There's this little piece of symbolism on the wall. You can barely catch it too, and it has the words 88-T. 88-T. Right? And that's a huge importance too. Those are painted for individuals that are going to understand what 88 means, and they're going to understand what T means, right? So, and then you have the Jeep Cherokee by the airplane, and they get in there, but then Arnold pulls them out and he starts beating up this Jeep Cherokee like the Hulk. And then you know, and then you got to just think of the Queen. You can start putting the pieces together, right? So let's see. And when John and Kate get to Crystal Peak Mountain, check this out. TX shows up in what? A helicopter. So they get to TX Mountain in this little plane, and they're getting ready to go through the door, and then all of a sudden a helicopter busts through, dude, and just like a machine gun comes in there, and the TX was flying it. That wicked, crazy woman lady was flying the helicopter. And then, you know, it's funny because if you watch this, I'm going to also decode sitcoms, because sitcoms and those like TV series, those are coming to my knowledge too as this. So like on the movie Bedazzled, on the movie Burn Notice, it's the same thing. So on Burn Notice, it's where Michael Weston was a spy, right? And in the middle of a job, they put a burn notice on him, and they just cut him off. And he was in the middle of a job. He almost got killed. And then they ended up dropping him off in Florida with no money, no means to make it, right? And then he has his girlfriend. But anyways, he starts figuring out this game. And then all of a sudden they want him back because they're like, he's kind of like John Wick. You know, you just can't get rid of this guy. And so all of a sudden they have a meeting in a helicopter, and they're flying above the ocean. And they're trying to give John Weston a deal. You know, they're laying the contract out. And then he denies management, and he takes his chances, and then he jumps out of the helicopter, right? So you have that, and then you have the helicopter right here, the TX showing up in the helicopter, which is amazing, you know, because of dreams I've had too, which is crazy. So they open a blast door too and hide in there, right? So this blast door is very important because Arnold represents somebody, probably a president, and because he's a protector, right? And so this blast door is getting ready to close, and John can't get in there. And then so Arnold goes under the blast door, and he starts holding it. And the TX tries to crawl and breaks John's ankle. And then all of a sudden, you know, Arnold grabs the tail of the TX and pulls it to him, you know? And it reminds me of this dream I had, dude, of I was in Vegas also. And I had a dream where I was just standing in this room, and there's this big old blast door, and I'm behind it. And all of a sudden I have a girl behind me, kids, people I don't know, you know, well, I know some of them now, but I haven't met them. And, you know, so, and all of a sudden I see Trump in front of this door, and he's holding it, you know, and nothing could get through, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, he goes away, and the blast door is open, and then I have to fight, you know? And so it's just amazing, this stuff. I'm going to post this video. And so I hope you really enjoy these breakdowns, and I'm going to start breaking down more of, like, you know, Still Standing. They're the Millers. You wonder why they named this movie or this show The Millers, right? M. Miller. It's a huge thing. They've been building around stuff, you know. Yeah, it's just, it goes deep, and we'll continue to go deep together. Oh yeah, one more thing to add too. I was watching John Wick Chapter 1 again last night because I was able to I was in too much in excitement and emotions when I watched it last, so I missed a lot of things. But this time around, I was able to look at the background a lot and see the layers, because movies are like layers. It's like an onion. You peel layers, right? And the more you're sleeping, the less layers you'll peel back. But the more you're awake, the more layers. And eventually you'll peel that whole damn onion, and you'll feel good about it. So John Wick Chapter 1 and Terminator 3. I got to tell you this, and go check it out for yourselves. Go check it out for yourselves. Terminator 3, when John gets dropped off at Mount Gleason on the hill country, right? and that's in Los Angeles. He goes and breaks into a veterinarian, and the first thing he does is break in the medicine cabinet, and there's a bunch of barking dogs, right, in cages. John Wick but his wife shows up, Catherine shows up. John Wick Chapter 1, at the end of the movie, he also breaks into a veterinarian hospital, and the first thing he does is break into this medicine cabinet, but it was open. He just opened the medicine cabinet and he grabbed what he needed. He was wounded, so he had to fix his wound. John Connor, Terminator 3, was wounded. He had to fix his wound. And then his wife shows up, but in John Wick Chapter 1, John Wick's wife's there, but only on the phone. All he has is a memory in a video where she's standing at the beach and she says, "What are you doing, John? Let's go home," right? And if you want to check that out, if you weren't watching live, go check it out, dude. And this was crazy because this movie was made in like 2016 or something, and Terminator is made in 2003. So when you see this, it's all part of this plot line, man.